It is a pleasure to have you once again for a new edition of the news opening this week. Let's go right away to discover the latest happenings around the world. Young Cameroonians in Bamenda, Mezam division of the northwest region of Cameroon, has received a number of materials over the weekend meant to contribute to their economic resilience and independence. The items were handed to them by Mununa Futsu, Minister of Youth and Civic Education, as part of the ministry's Special Youth Triennial Plan, which entails providing support and funding to young people across all the regions of the country. These young people received donations in the field of agriculture, craft work, digital economy and technology. The materials include motorbikes, cutlasses, farm spray pumps, deep freezers, electric generators and a host of others, depending on the sector of activity of the beneficiaries. The minister, while handing the items, insisted on their appropriate use, adding that local administrative authorities will ensure a follow-up of the process.
The ceremony is only a showcase to what is being done all over the national territory, locality by locality, under the supervision of the administrative authorities who will hand over the support. So here we'll have a sample. We'll hand over a sample of those support, and the administrative authorities with all the stakeholders will continue the process.
The handover ceremony was also an opportunity for some local enterprises to showcase their products and services during a visit of stands that marked the end of the occasion. Thousands of supporters of President Félix Tshisekedi in the Democratic Republic of Congo flooded the streets of Kinshasa over the weekend in a show of solidarity. Activists of the Presidential Union for Democracy and Social Progress political party, who marched to support consultations, urged the president to form a union of the nation in the midst of a crisis with the camp of his predecessor Joseph Kabila. The pro-Tshisekedi supporters chanted slogans hostile to former President Joseph Kabila and also called through songs for the end of Kabila's Front Commun pour le Congo coalition. The Kabila camp claims to see through these consultations and protests and believe it is an attempt to rebuild the unity of the ex-opposition from which President Tshisekedi came. But one of the pro-Kabila spokesmen sees it as a plot to neutralize the moral authority of Joseph Kabila and put him out of the game. The consultations that has been on pause for the weekend resumed this Monday, November 16. The fighting in Ethiopia's northern Tigray state may not only have drastic implications for the future of the country, but is also seriously affecting its neighbors. It is the case with neighboring Eritrea's capital, Asmara, where the Tigray People's Liberation Front fired a volley of rockets on Saturday, November 14. The leader of Ethiopia's Tigray region confirmed his forces bombed the airport in neighboring Eritrea's capital. The leader, Debretsion Gebremichael, did not say how many missiles were fired at Asmara, but said it was the only city in Eritrea that was targeted. Although it was not possible to determine whether the rockets fired into Asmara had caused any casualties, the attack marked a major escalation in the almost two-week war that has killed hundreds of people. Thousands of Ethiopian refugees have continued pouring into Sudan, escaping the worsening conflict that has spiraled over Ethiopia's borders and threatens to destabilize the wider Horn of Africa region. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission said in a statement on Saturday that it was closely monitoring the risk of human rights violations arising from the ongoing war. Participants of the UN-brokered Libya Political Dialogue Forum failed to reach a full agreement in discussions over the future of Libya and potential resolutions to the country's ongoing civil war. It has not succeeded in forming a transitional government to oversee next year's election. But Stephanie Williams, the UN's envoy to Libya, said that she was very pleased with the outcome of the talks, with 75 delegates selected by the UN to meet in Tunis, having agreed to hold presidential and parliamentary elections on December 24 next year. Despite no agreement being reached, Williams said on Sunday, the participants in the talks had come together over significant issues in a very short period of time. Delegates will resume talks online next week to discuss a reform structure and role of the executive authority. They will also discuss the question of a constitutional basis for the election. The talks are aimed at setting a roadmap out of Libya's year-long civil war in an attempt to end years of chaos following the 2011 overthrow and killing of dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Tanzania main opposition leader Tundu Lissu has returned in exile in Europe following an intense presidential election that saw his civil disobedience in protest of what he perceived as a constitutional coup d'etat have him once again to be target of death threats. The 52-year-old was called out what passes for the election. The security that I had, the security detail that was given to me during the election campaign was removed, and the very next day I started receiving death threats. In an interview granted to DW, Lissu said it is dangerous to be the opposition flag bearer in Tanzania, where President John Magufuli was returned to office on October 28 with an improbable 84% of the vote. There is nothing to take lightly after surviving a 2017 assassination attempt which nearly took his life. He returned to Tanzania in July after being chosen to lead the opposition challenge to Magufuli's re-election. Still impassioned and not at all ready to throw out the towel of his beloved home country, Tanzania still calls out to him. Lissu states with confidence, "I will go back, I don't know when, but I cannot remain in Europe forever. The most important thing right now is to continue the struggle." Polisario's front leader Ibrahim Gali on Saturday, November 14, announced that the Western Sahara's Independence Movement Group had ended a 29-year ceasefire with Morocco to resume its armed struggle following a border confrontation. Morocco's army on Friday, November 13, entered a barrier zone at the south of the territory to open a road blocked by Polisario supporters backed by armed fighters, an act the independence movement characterized as igniting war. The rebel group, which is backed by neighboring Algeria, said that attacks of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army unit continue against various hiding places of the Moroccan enemy, causing loss of lives and equipment and disrupting its military plans. A collapse of the ceasefire, which Morocco has said it intends to stick with, could regenerate a guerrilla war in the remote desert region and aggravate decades of friction between Morocco and neighboring Algeria, which hosts Polisario. Note that Western Sahara, an arid and sparsely populated strip of land, has been under Moroccan control since 1975, when Spain, the occupying power, pulled out its forces. Out of Africa, Peru's interim president Manuel Merino resigned on Sunday, 5 days after taking office amid massive protests against him, which led to subsequent police crackdown, leaving 2 dead with several injured. The latest political shake-up comes as Peru battles the coronavirus pandemic and what is expected to be its worst economic crackdown in a century. Merino assumed the presidency after lawmakers voted last Monday to impeach his predecessor, Martin Vizcarra, over alleged bribery, accusations that the former president has denied. After holding an emergency meeting on Sunday morning, Congress urged Merino to resign immediately to pacify the country that has experienced unrest since the popular Vizcarra was impeached. People poured into the streets to celebrate Merino's departure on Sunday, waving flags, chanting and banging pots, although the news plunges Peru deeper into uncertainty and legal disarray as legislators now wrestle over who will take his place. Congress is expected to hold a second vote after a first vote failed to gain majority support for left-wing legislator and human rights defender Rocio Silva Santisteban to be designated interim president. Now talking economy, China and 14 other countries have formed the world's largest trading bloc, covering nearly a third of the global economy. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, was signed virtually on Sunday on the sidelines of the annual summit of the 10-Nation Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Seen as an extension of China's influence in the region, the deal excludes the US, which withdrew from a rival Asia-Pacific Trade Pact in 2017. The pact lowers tariffs, opens up the service sector, and sets common trade rules within the bloc. The agreement covers trade, services, investment, e-commerce, telecommunications, and copyright. Apart from the 10 ASEAN members, it includes China, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand, but not the United States. Officials said the accord leaves the door open for India, which dropped out due to fierce domestic opposition to its market-opening recruitment, to rejoin the bloc. The virtual summit was hosted by Vietnam, which held the rotating chair position in the run-up to the event. Negotiations over the new RCEP deal began in 2012 and it was finally signed on Sunday, November 15, 2020, on the sidelines of a meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Azerbaijan has agreed to extend the deadline by 10 days for Armenian forces to leave the ceded territory. The Kalbaka territory was ceded to Azerbaijan as part of a peace agreement that ended a 6-week war, needing Armenian forces to leave the territory. The original deadline for the forces to evacuate the Kalbaka district of Nagorno-Karabakh was due to be on Sunday, November 15, but later was prolonged to November 25. The timetable for the withdrawal from the Aghdan and Lachin districts is unchanged, an aide to Azerbaijani president said in a news conference in Baku on Sunday. All 3 districts have been held by Armenian separatists since a war that ended in 1994. Residents of Kalbaka, that was controlled for decades by ethnic Armenians, have been leaving their homes since the peace deal was signed on November 10. Reports say some inhabitants have set their homes on fire before leaving, while some are determined to remain. Just last week, the Armenian government said it had no other option but to sign the Moscow-brokered ceasefire deal, citing concerns over its inability to hold any territory if the fighting continued. This ended the weeks-long conflict that has led to many deaths, and now the guns have been silenced, but some people in the region are wondering for how long it would last. That's how we saw it in today's edition of the news on DBS TV. Thanks for watching. Stay with us for upcoming programs.